to write you this song.
All right, so these last 8 months have been absolutely bonkers, and we really put off making this video because we didn't want it to seem like we were begging for help.
Right. We were racing the winter while running out of money, and then there was a forest fire and the biggest snowstorm that this area has seen in years.
So we are incredibly fortunate to have been able to take the time to go on this adventure. We knew that it was going to be very difficult, but so many things flew at us that there was no way we could have anticipated. Primarily, we have been trying to extract ourselves from society, but society still had other plans for us, and it was not all good.
All right, so our primary residence, we thought it would be easier just to hire an estate sale company to sell off all of our stuff that we weren't bringing with us. That was fine, except for they hired like a third-party company that was just like a bunch of scammers. They were just kind of tweakers or something, and they went a little nuts and they started stealing or just pulling out wiring and appliances and even the built-in cabinets. And we have basically had to go, it was a couple hours away, so we had to leave our sanctuary of the mountain to go deal with that bullshit. So we got some of the appliances back and then had to hire a legit person to put it back in because they couldn't put it back in because they just cut stuff up. And then fortunately the rest of the sale went pretty smoothly after that.
Yeah. So we talked about the Pittsburgh house on this channel before. So that situation never got any better. We ended up dealing with about $4,000 in garbage removal, over $7,000 in a water bill, and over $600 to remove raccoons. There was almost a warrant out for my arrest because the grass was too long, and they couldn't contact us because the city still had our old address, and up here we don't even have a physical address, which ended up being a bunch of other issues and many, many trips to the DMV to eventually get that sorted out. So anyway, the whole Pittsburgh situation wasn't even resolved until this last month when we had to cash out our retirement account and pay another $40,000 to get rid of the property over what it was even worth to pay off the mortgage plus what we sold it for.
Yeah. Then in the fall of 2022, we had a forest fire that was just right over the ridge, and it was nuts because we saw the lightning coming down. It was totally chill, we're working on the cabin, and then 6 minutes of lightning strikes. And that started the fire, and we were not too far away from it. This is where the fire was. So over there, is that? I'm pretty sure that's where the fire was.
Miles.
About 3 miles. So we felt like we kind of needed to evacuate. Everything was getting evacuated around us. So we went and stayed in a hotel for a few days. And then we were just kind of oh, hopefully the firefighters can contain it, which they were great. They did a really good job. And really, we always planned on fire prevention measures, and now that's just lit a fire under us.
So we had planned to take a 2-week road trip to go visit all of our old family and friends, and we're really glad that we did, because on that road trip, in the beginning we saw my grandpa and grandma, and then the 2-week road trip turned into a 3-week road trip because my grandpa passed away. And that was really hard because he was my first and best example of what it is to be a man.
I can barely even, everything's double.
Yeah.
Well, that was the last trip our SUV made. We put a whole bunch of money into it, about $3,000, getting new tires and fixing the AC, and then it just started having some issues, and then it completely died. And at that point, since we were driving the kids to school every day, we couldn't just not have a reliable vehicle for that. So then we started searching, and it was really hard to find a used vehicle.
Yeah, the worst used car market
Right.
ever.
It was ridiculous. So we finally, after going to a bunch of different car lots, probably half a dozen, we finally found a little Subaru for $16,000, and ended up having to pay cash for that because neither one of us was employed and we didn't have an address and all these things. So anyway,
impossible to get credit.
Yeah.
So by this point, we're obviously like running out of money and racing to get the cabin built so I can start interviewing for new jobs before winter comes.
Yeah, and originally we had planned on homeschooling the girls, but we raised social butterflies that needed constant, interaction or every day.
Yeah.
So putting them into school was kind of a priority. So by fall of 2022, we were putting them both into public school.
Yeah. And then Russia invaded Ukraine and gas prices went through the roof. So our hour-and-a-half drive to take this girls to school every day really also put a kind of burden on our financial situation.
Right. So we moved here in February 2022 in the middle of winter, and we went ahead and kept our primary residence just in case things didn't work out. And we made it through winter and we were like, woohoo, and sold our primary residence. And then we found out later that the winter of 2022 was like a very mild winter. And so then when winter came in 22-23, it was like the harshest winter that anybody has seen in a very long time.
Yeah, and so then in a confluence of bullshit, I had to go out of town to help my stepdad get surgery. I had to drive him out of his town. So that was several days that I had to be gone. And at the same time, I was gone for a couple days. Molly and the girls got sick. And so no one had been on the road in like 3 days. And then there was a ton of snow.
I am cleaning off the track. I mean, you cannot even believe this. It's a lot of snow. I mean, I guess it's 11 inches, so.
And we just couldn't get back up. Even trying to knock the snow down, we tried all kinds of different stuff. And then with the girls being in school and having to go to school every day, we ended up staying in a hotel for a while we tried to figure out how to get back up.
Then the problem was the snow just kept falling and it just wasn't getting any better.
Yeah.
So we were just stuck in this hotel for a little while, and then you got sick.
Yeah, and then I got sick, and we just determined that we're not going to be able to make it back up. Long story short, vehicles got stuck. It kept snowing. We kind of gave up on trying to be able to get back up here.
Right.
So at that time, while we were in the hotel, we weren't making it back up. I was totally sick with the flu. Yeah. And then Molly was able to miraculously find us a decent place to live at a decent price. And through Facebook and everything else, like, we are extremely grateful to the community and the friends that we've made around here, because we had nothing. Like, everything we owned was either stuck up here or sold in that estate sale before. And so people just gave us all kinds of stuff, from forks to beds, that got us through that really, really difficult time. Molly we got a loan from some family and friends. Right. Molly was taking on doing nannying and substitute teaching and DoorDash. Like, while I was trying to find a job, and it's never taken me longer than a month to like find a job in my life. No. But to add to the pile of crap, I work in tech, and there was like over 600,000 layoffs in the tech sector. So it ended up taking me 4 months to find a job.
It's never taken you that long.
It's never taken me that long.
But we knew that he was going to get a good job, and that things would change pretty quickly once he got that position. So we just held out hope, and we just kind of made ends meet as best we could.
Yep.
And then within all of that going on, Jules was having a lot of trouble at school.
Yeah.
She was having a lot of trouble at school. Like, she went from our daughter that loved to learn and could read really well and loved math and being around everybody, to a completely different person. She was just regressing socially, emotionally, academically. And that made things really difficult, because I'm not a big fan of public schools anyway. So I went in and tried to diplomatically talk to people, the principal and the teacher, but that didn't go particularly well. So we ended up
Pulling Jules out of school.
But I was able to get her into an online school pretty quickly.
Yeah. Which so far has been completely amazing.
Amazing. Yeah.
So much so that we got this one enrolled in it too.
So she'll start kindergarten in the fall, and Jules will be in 2nd grade, and they'll both be technically homeschooled, but online public school.
Yeah.
So, which equals awesome field trips.
Yeah.
And all kinds of fun things. Plus, they do a lot of sports, and they're keeping those connections with the friends they made at school. We've gotten phone numbers and all that, so that we can continue the social aspect of it. Did you want to say something? Go ahead.
And Jules is doing camp at my school.
That's right.
Jules doing camp right
and they
now.
do sports, and they have all those extracurricular things so that we can do the homeschool and still have all the social.
Yeah.
Yeah. So after 4 months and multiple final interviews, Jesse was able to get a position that is absolutely amazing. He loves it, and it's more money than he's ever made.
Yeah,
so,
it's the most money I've ever made.
Yeah.
And so throughout that whole process, there were so many times where the light at the end of the tunnel ended up being a train, and we are so grateful to finally be out of that tunnel. But the way things are now, it is just not sustainable to keep living up here full time like we were.
Yeah.
And so we're going to transition our approach to the property up here. We are very proud of how far we were able to get by ourselves, but as our ultimate goal appears to build a community, it's time to start reaching out for help.
Yeah.
We've got a land use lawyer looking into how we can legally build a community up here. And you've probably noticed, if you've seen any of our videos before, that they're going to be a much better quality now because we've got Tyler here, who is a fantastic videographer and editor. And so we're going to be pivoting how our channel works so we can build stuff in town and work up here and start building that community. So our dream of moving up here and living off grid and not having to work anymore has collapsed, but just because something collapses doesn't mean it can't be rebuilt.